Great evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's installment of the Bama Factor with Alex Taylor. I'm your host, as always, Alex Taylor, and we have a lot to get into this episode as we bring you our third installment of the Bama Factor this season for 2025. We have a lot to dig into, so we're going to go ahead and hop right into it. This past Saturday, Alabama, Louisiana Monroe. The response from the Tide, as I told you what I wanted to see, and respond they did, very much so. So we're just going to take you through some of the stats, really dive right into the dominant performance by the Crimson Tide. So starting with our team stats, as always, Alabama 29 first downs to the 9 of the Warhawks. Alabama 9 of 12 on third down, holding the Warhawks to 6 of 14. Alabama 2 of 2 on fourth down, 0 for 1 for the Warhawks. Advantage of total yards in the Crimson Tide's favor, 583 to 148. 371 passing for the Tide, 55 for the Warhawks. 212 yards on the ground for the Tide, 93 for the Warhawks. Penalties, Alabama 5 for 55, the Warhawks 4 for 41. Turnovers, Alabama 0, Warhawks 3. And time of possession in favor of the Crimson Tide, 34-14 to 25-46. Just a little bit of the box score from Alabama. Obviously, Ty Simpson, we'll talk a little bit more about him in depth. Perfect on the night, 17 of 17 for 226, 3 touchdowns. Austin Mack, 8 of 10 for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Keelan Russell, your true freshman, 4 of 6, 65 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. A.K. Deer, your leading rusher on the ground, 5 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. Kevin Riley, 11 carries, 69 yards. Dre Washington, 5 for 22. Richard Young, 6 of 19. Your leading receiver, Jeremy Bernard, again, 3 catches for 67 yards, 2 touchdowns. Latsier Brooks, we'll talk about him, 4 catches for 58 yards. Isaiah Horton, 3 for 51 and a touchdown. Cole Adams, 3 for 48 and a touchdown. We're going to talk about a lot of these guys. And again, your leaders on defense, James Smith with 4 total tackles, all solo, 3 tackles for a loss. Deontay Lawson, 4 total tackles, 1 tackle for a loss. You had other guys like Justin Jefferson with an interception as well. A lot of guys contributing on that side of the ball. So overall, Alabama, start to finish, completely dominating ULM. And the response was what was needed. Overall, the response was exactly what I wanted to see. And again, I told you I would be watching every single snap closely and how Alabama started, how they kept their foot on the gas, the intensity was kept up the entire game. It was something pleasant to watch and something that we needed to really respond. And as I said at the beginning of the episode, respond we did. So I'm just going to kind of roll into the second segment here and just really talking about our offensive identity. And I want to start with Ty Simpson. It starts at the top here. And when you look at the offensive identity, it starts with your QB. And, Ty Simpson, week 1, Florida State, sometimes we felt, we could have done a little bit better. Sometimes he did fine. He could have taken off a few more times. Kind of looked a little bit rattled, a little shaky, not really confident in his decision making. But then, game 2, now again, albeit the tier of the opponent. However, but game 2, the confidence was there. There wasn't any second guessing. There was a lot more confidence to step into the throws, the release, not so much trying to place the ball as it was just really letting it fly. Obviously ended up 17 of 17, over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, so perfect on the night. And that's really all you can ask of your QB after having a week 1 performance like he did, which again wasn't necessarily terrible, but also wasn't his best performance either. So I think when you look at Ty and just what this can do for his confidence going forward, it's huge. And then on the other side of that, you got Kevin Riley, who's really emerging as and really making a case for the running back 2 position when JM comes back. I think Kevin needs to be featured a lot. This guy runs hard. He runs with aggression. I said it last week. He needs more carries. And he's made his case, in my opinion. And I think this guy has worked his tail off. I think that he provides the spark, but he's also really kind of a dual threat out of the backfield. He's not just the tailback who can find the correct holes and hit the gaps and has that burst of speed, but he's a threat of a receiver out of the backfield. If you look at some of Alabama's more elusive backs in the past, a Josh Jacobs, a Damian Harris, a Brian Robinson, a Najee Harris, they were good receivers out of the backfield for the majority of the time. And Kevin Riley has a chance to be that guy, and I'm excited to see what he can do this Saturday. But Kevin Riley, he is a guy that Tuscaloosa roots, flipped on signing day for Miami. And this is a guy that Alabama fans should be excited about. Again, and I'll say that all year long until he proves me otherwise. But these first 2 games, he has proved he's wanted it and that he's using this opportunity that he's been given to his advantage. So I'm extremely excited to see what he can do. And, I made a post earlier in the week saying run the offense through a certain player. And the certain player I'm alluding to is the one that you see here if you are currently watching this. But if you're listening to this, it's Jeremy Bernard. I think you need to run your offense through him until further notice. Because this guy, he's taken on the leadership role. He's a guy that is a tremendous athlete first and foremost. And this is also a guy who, he's just an elite ball player. And really, ever since halfway through last season, in my opinion, has been our wide receiver 1. Not a dig at Ryan, not a dig at anybody else, but this guy has gone after it. And he's proven the first 2 games that he wants to be the guy. And that spells trouble for when Ryan does come back. And we're going to talk about some of the other guys in the receiving corps. So this excites me because Jeremy is a solid player. But the other thing that just really impressed me about Jeremy is his faith. And his faith, I know, is extremely important to him. And that's one of the things that I admire definitely the most about him. Is because he's very active. He's very vocal about his faith, where his strength comes from. His celebration Saturday night, every time he scored a touchdown, he dropped to his knees and he looked up to heaven and just threw his hands up. It's something you love to see, something you love to see an athlete do. So he's very active in that. And I believe that's why he has the success that he does. So, overall, I think the biggest thing going forward with Jeremy is you've just got to keep playing your game. You've got to take whatever the defense gives you because he can get separation. He can get open. He can get those extra yards if he needs it. But he's also a guy who can take the top off too. He's very agile. And I think he is a guy who is extremely, extremely underrated. So again, I'm excited to see what Jeremy does. Another guy I want to talk about real quick, just to finish this, Latsier Brooks. And again, I told people in the offseason, you need to watch this kid. There's no way this kid's just a 3-star. And if he is, they got to steal in Tuscaloosa. And that we did. We got one of the biggest steals, I think, of the recruiting class. Latsier Brooks made his debut officially, gave Tide fans kind of a glimpse of what he can do. Taking some quick passes, going up, high pointing the ball, weaving his way through traffic. I mean, he's going to be a good, solid player for the Crimson Tide for years to come. And he is a guy that I'm very excited about. So again, Latsier Brooks, not going to spend too much time on it because you saw it. And I'm excited to see what he can do in the future because this guy needs to be on the field more. And he got opportunities with Ryan out. I even think when Ryan comes back, you need to keep this guy on the field as much as you possibly can. This guy, I think he's a matchup nightmare for guys. I don't think guys want to see him in the slot. He's the guy who you can move around. He's a gadget player. You can plug him anywhere. And I'm anxious to see how they really use him going forward. And I think they'll use him the correct way too. So now moving on to our next segment. Is the Swarm D finally emerging? Are we finally back on that side? And obviously, again, I understand Louisiana Monroe, quality of opponent, but against any team, to shut a team out and to beat a team as decisive as 73-0, and to have them only muster 148 yards, which the majority of that came in the fourth quarter when your second and third stringer in there. That's still impressive, especially after having the week one that you did on the defensive side of the ball. You gave up over 200 yards rushing. You didn't give great effort on that side of the ball. And to come back with that intensity, that passion, that fire, and get a little bit of your swagger back. That's the important key thing here, is that the defense came out and did what they were supposed to do. They responded. That was the biggest response I was looking for last week, even more so than the offense. It was going to have to be the defense. And you look at guys like James Smith. You look at guys like Justin Jefferson, Quay Rousseau, Johan Pierre, Deontay Lawson, Damani Jackson, Bray Hubbard. All these guys were flying to the football Saturday. And then even some of these guys, the younger guys, Drake Kirkpatrick Jr., looking like his dad. I saw his dad play, 09-11 or 09-10 and 11, looking just like his dad. That same fire, that same intensity, that same passion, that same headhunting ability. Also, QB Reese, a guy that's going to be really solid, and also a guy that I don't think a lot of people took really that big of a notice to, but on the rewatch, Caden Jones, inside linebacker. Guy's going to be a stud. Guy was filling the gap extremely well. Really meeting guys in the hole right there, in that A gap, in that C gap. And he was making some contact, man. So you've got a lot of guys who played Saturday night, got good experience. And just overall, just the intensity of the defense has to continue, because that's where really I think the identity of this team is going to find itself. It's going to be that intensity. It's going to be the Swarm D mentality. It's going to be that overall, we're going to beat you into submission, beat you into your sleep type of team. And that's where it has to happen. It starts on the defensive side of the ball. Because I fully believe the offense, with what I saw, and potentially going forward with full health, and with what we got coming back, is going to take care of itself. If the defense can get on its P's and Q's and can get firing on all cylinders, it's going to be a dangerous football team. I fully believe it. But overall, the intensity was there. Still had some missed tackles here. You got to clean those up. But as far as the intensity, the attention to detail, the alignment, filling your gaps, running to the football, swarming, creating turnovers, that's what the defense is all about. And getting a game like that and pitching a shutout the week after you get pretty much ran through is a testament to not only your character, but your will to come back from adversity. So, overall, hats off to the defense. James Smith is going to be a game wrecker. He's turning into that guy who we knew he could be. Keon Keeley getting some good reps. Steve Mbayamue getting into the game, getting to see his just brute strength. And I think when the technique kind of follows, technique still needs some polishing and some work. But when he gets that down pat, he's going to be a force in the SEC. Kelby Collins kind of rehabbing an injury, kind of getting back. LT Overton still kind of doing what he does. You had Edric Hill, you had Jordan Renaud playing really well. And again, just overall, just great night from the defense. This has to continue. The identity moving forward has to still be that swarm D mentality, has to be the beat people to sleep, has to be the violent intentions. You have to do everything with violent intentions. So I'm impressed. Any team that you shut out like that and that you hold to 148 total yards, it doesn't matter who it is. It's impressive. So now that goes into our next segment. And this is just some young players to watch. I've already alluded to some, but the first one that comes to mind, as I've already said, Latsier Brooks. Already kind of talked about him, not going to go into too much more detail. But again, young emerging receiver, a guy that could be the next Jalen Waddle, not just because he wears the jersey 17, but just because of the fact of it, just his shiftiness, his ability to gain extra yardage, and just, he's on the shorter end for a receiver, but, he's quick, he's agile, he can navigate, through traffic in ways that, some of the taller guys can't. And the speed and high pointing the football as well. I mean, when you see a guy who is 5'10" or shorter high point a football over a defender that has the height advantage on him, that's incredible. And, he did that a few times on Saturday night. And I look for him to be involved more in that slot position. And I think that's something that is going to be huge for this team, is to having his skill set. Maybe put him back there on punts as well. Some other young players that I want to highlight, tight end Caleb Edwards, caught his first career touchdown pass as well. This guy is a mountain of a man. I mean, 6'5", 6'6", 250, 260 frame, but good in the blocking game, but obviously proven to be a good pass catcher too. He was lined up wide sometimes. He's got some speed, honestly, behind him. He's got some underrated speed. So I think when you look at how he can be used in red zone situations like he was Saturday night, that's where you use him. Alabama's got a big tight end room, all the way from Josh Cuevas to Caleb Edwards to Marshall Pritchett to Danny Lewis. And Edwards is getting more opportunities because Danny Lewis is out with an injury. So he's really kind of making his name known. And, you're getting experience for these younger guys. You're getting experience for these freshmen that, yeah, they're 18 years old and yeah, they're young, but they're getting big game experience. They're getting a lot of it. So, again, Caleb Edwards, I got to give it to him. He is going to be a really good tight end, I think, in the future, currently and in the future for Alabama. And another guy I want to talk about as well, also on the opposite side, is Keelan Russell. And, we saw, really our first action of him. And, he's everything is advertised. Just, the decision-making, the quick twitch ability, stepping up in the pocket, eluding tacklers. You see kind of the dual threat ability. Didn't really get a chance to run much, but, you kind of saw that escapability from him. But just the precision in passing. I mean, both his touchdown passes, keeping his eyes downfield, looking off some of the safeties. I mean, that's something that you don't really see a lot of freshmen do. And again, just overall, I made a post earlier today, about just his attitude. He's 100% behind Ty as the starter. He loves Ty. He loves Austin. He's where he's supposed to be. He's not complaining with where he's at. He's going to take his opportunity because his opportunity he knows is going to come eventually. But when he gets in, he's going to make the most of it, and he did. He threw 2 touchdown passes in his debut. Even if he only threw for 65 yards, he still threw for 2 touchdowns, and he gave the Tide fans a glimpse of what's really to come for him. So again, a lot of young players just to watch. Like I said again, Draker Patrick Jr., just, really making his presence known. Johanze Pierre's another guy. Xavier Mincy's another guy. Justin Hill, outside linebacker, he's another guy. Caden Jones, as I alluded to. QB Reese. I mean, QB Reese had a heck of a game. QB Reese, obviously recovered the fumble. He caused another one. In on several tackles. Heard his name several times in the second half. This is a guy, too, that, really made some noise in spring and the fall. And a guy who can really be, I think, vital for Alabama going forward. When you have guys like Justin Jefferson and Deontay Lawson and Hill Green, and, if those guys have to come out, or, if you need just a spark or something like that, QB Reese can be that guy. Caden Jones can be that guy. You also got guys like Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson was in on a lot of tackles as well. These young guys really showing that they're hungry, and I love it. Um, so overall, just a lot of young players to watch, and really look for these guys on Saturday too, because I think they've earned the right to have playing time. And as they did last week, I think they're going to continue to get that. So now let's bring us into our last segment. Obviously previewing the Alabama-Wisconsin game, and just going to go ahead and just check some of my notes here for what I have. So Alabama, Wisconsin, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, this Saturday, September 13th, 11 a.m. kickoff on ABC. Wisconsin comes in 2-0. Alabama comes in 1-1. Alabama currently favored by 21.5 points over the Badgers. And Alabama with 88% chance to win this game. But overall, when I really look at these two teams, Wisconsin's your typical Big Ten team. They're going to be your big northern born and bred offensive linemen. They're going to love to run the ball a lot. Luke Fickell's a guy who does have a history of having good quarterbacks. Their starter will not be playing this Saturday due to an injury. So, they're going to have a backup. And, this is going to be really interesting to see how the Tide respond to this. And again, Wisconsin's coming in, again, 2-0, confident. I'm pretty sure they still have last year kind of holding in the back of their minds. Alabama went into Madison and, really dominated the Badgers from start to finish, 42-10. Jalen Milroe had a good day. Ryan Williams had a good day. The defense had a really good day as well. But with these early games, and the challenge to the players is, do you get up for these early games? Because, it's a whole new thing. You don't have the whole morning and part of the afternoon to go get ready. It's an early morning. It's a different schedule. It's not your usual. There's not a lot of 11 a.m. kickoffs on your schedule. So, again, these are important to get off to fast starts because, again, early morning, you're getting off that bus, 8:45, 9 o'clock, and, you really got to get into, hey, I got to play football today. So, overall, I think that's going to be important is getting off to a fast start. Obviously the game's sold out. I think the crowd's going to be a huge factor again. They were extremely supportive last week. I think, the crowd really answered the call too, really being a hostile place and, really supporting the team after week one. But now with this being a bigger game, a Power 4 game, and, a noon kickoff or, Eastern time at least, an early morning kickoff, people get up for that, and, it's going to be loud. It's going to have, just a lot of good opportunities in this game to, really grow and, really take that next step and really just saying, okay, can we take the intensity we had last week against ULM and channel that and not just save it for that game and say, okay, we responded, okay, we're good. No. It's taking that, it's stacking the days, it's stacking the games, and it's building off of that. Because then don't look to the bye week, don't look to Georgia, don't look to Vanderbilt. Look at the game you have in front of you and look to build off of that headed into the bye week because then, yeah, you do have some time. We got to get some guys healthy. We got to get some guys healed. We maybe need to throw some wrinkles in the game plan because then we have a big game coming up in 2 weeks when we go to Georgia, and we've got to go to Athens. And we already have a loss on the books. Another one could be catastrophic potentially because, we're sitting at 19 in the AP poll right now. So, again, every game, it's just got to be, you've got to improve and get better. Ty Simpson's got to get better. Ryan Williams is expected to play. Jam Miller's probably going to be, game time decisions saying he's right on the cusp, per Kalen DeBoer. He's right on the cusp of playing. So, overall, we just really got to hone in on that. Tim Keenan could play. I think, honestly, we should let these other guys get some good experience, hold Tim out for Georgia so he's really healthy. He's got 2 weeks to really still heal. And overall, just I think when you look at bottom line, from top to bottom, Alabama's the more talented team. Alabama has the better skill players. I think they have the better quarterback. They have the better offensive line. They have the better tailbacks. They have the better defense. They have the home field advantage. But, you can't look at all that. On paper, Alabama wins hands down. But again, you're going back to a Power 4 opponent a week after you bounce back. But again, it's all about carrying that. It's all about stacking it. So overall, I think that, the keys to victory here, is quick start. Don't let up. That's the first and foremost, is that, you got to get off to a fast start. You can't get off to slow starts in these early morning games. You've got to get awake early, quick scoring drive, a stop. And, you've got to consistently move the ball. Wisconsin's a physical football team. They're going to play. They are your typical Big Ten team. They are going to be physical. They are going to, meet you at the line of scrimmage. They have Division I athletes. They play like athletes should. And, a Luke Fickell coach team is going to be a very aggressive team. And, they're playing against Alabama, so don't think that they don't have something up their sleeve, or that they're not going to pull out all the stops, and they're going to pull out their best play calling or game planning that they have for Alabama. This is still a very important matchup in the season. And the second one is, for the defense, is just, prioritize getting off the field on third down. Your alignment, run the ball, keep that same intensity you had a week ago. Is to keep stacking off of what you did in your success a week ago. Because this game is over. All right. ULM's done. Florida State's done. You can only build off of what you've already done. You took a good step last week. Keep building off of that step. And the last one is, again, cut it loose. Use your skill players. And something that I can say with Ryan coming back is, Ryan, just settle in, baby. Like, you do you, man. Just be Hollywood. You ain't got to be anybody else. Do what you do. You are a talented athlete. You are a skilled athlete. You are one of the best receivers in the country. Nobody can cover you. And if not, I know you're going to be a good teammate. Be that decoy. Give these other guys a chance to shine too. And I know that he will, because he's that type of teammate. But again, I'm expecting a breakout performance from RW on Saturday. I really am. I just really feel that he's ready to get out of that cage. There won't be no sophomore slump. But overall, at the end of the day, again, physicality, the intensity, the leadership has got to be there. You've got the home field advantage behind you. As the fans, you need to be loud. And at the end of the day, I think Alabama walks out of here with a win. I can see a 35-14. I could see, a 38-17 type game. But if Alabama lets these guys hang around, it could very well be a game going into the fourth quarter. But what would be good is that, having the bye week on the horizon, not looking forward to that, is try to get your starters out of there early. Get up. Have that comfortable lead at halftime to where your backups can come in and get some good experience and playing time. And you can rest some of your starters early, because then you got a week off. You can get these guys some experience, and you can dominate again and show the world, hey, yeah, we're still Bama. We're headed into Athens in 2 weeks. We're all right. But overall, again, it's going to be a good college football Saturday. A lot of good matchups. Georgia, Tennessee, Texas A&M and Notre Dame, USF and Miami. A lot of really solid matchups this Saturday. So, again, enjoy your college football Saturday. Enjoy time with your families, friends. Be safe if you travel. To all the Bama fans traveling to Tuscaloosa, excited about Saturday. I will be there as well. I'm excited about that. And overall, I think Alabama comes to play. I think they continue their success from last week. And but again, we're not entitled to anything. We got to keep stacking the days. We got to keep stacking the games. We got to keep going 1-0 each and every game, and that's the most important thing. But again, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Bama Factor tonight. Thank you guys so much for following the Instagram page, TikTok, Twitter, every single social media outlet and for viewing episodes, for commenting, likes, subscribing, following. You guys mean the world to me. I couldn't do it without y'all. I really appreciate 26,000 followers and climbing on Instagram. Guys, just again, appreciate you. You're helping the page grow. You keep the page going. And again, y'all have a great weekend. We will be back here next week to recap the Wisconsin game going into the bye week, what Alabama needs to do and prep for. And we'll preview some other games around the country next week, since the Crimson Tide will be on the forsaken bye week. But we will preview some other games around the country and talk about where the Tide is headed into Athens in 2 weeks. So, as always, this is the Bama Factor with Alex Taylor. Good night, God bless, and roll Tide.